So China now has two stealth fighter jets, two variants. Yeah. And they both look like this, like the American thing, right? Uh, have you heard of Operation Titan Rain? Titan Rain. Titan Rain. Google it whenever you want, whenever you have the time. This was a Chinese hacking operation on the United States in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, early 2000s, in which they stole tremendous quantities of American military secrets, entire blueprints of fighter planes and fighter jets and whatnot, and much more. All kinds of classified data information, and this included the design, the entire design of the F-35, I believe. If F-22 also, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure which, definitely the F-35. And then they came up with the J-22 or whatever they call it, and it's kind of a ripoff of the F-35. And now they have another variant of that, the Chinese. So they now have two stealth fighter jets, the Chinese. They recently revealed the second one just a couple of days ago. So yeah, the Chinese have two stealth fighters that are fifth generation fighter planes. India, we don't have any. We have a 4.5 generation fighter plane, which is not something we manufacture. We have to buy it from abroad, which is the Rafale. And we are developing the AMCA, which will take its first flight in the late 2020s or early 2030s. So the question is, should India buy the Sukhoi 57 or the F-35? Since we won't have any stealth fighter until 2032, let's say. So even then, we'll have just a handful. It'll be by the late 2030s that we'll have maybe a decent number of the AMCAs. So what do we do in the meanwhile? Do we buy the Sukhoi 57, which is a fifth generation stealth fighter? Do we buy the F-35, which is supposedly the best stealth fighter in the world, fifth generation? Look, you buy the F-35, you're crippled. I've said this so many times. You buy an American product, they can deactivate it at a moment's notice. You are then a hostage. The Australians found out the hard way. We are no Australia. We are not a white nation. We are a bunch of brown people. We cannot afford to buy an aircraft that costs 100 million plus per piece, which can be deactivated on demand by the Americans. We simply can't. It is suicidal to do that. What about the Sukhoi 57? The Sukhoi 57 is a fifth generation fighter plane. Has it been inducted in large numbers in the Russian Air Force? I'm not sure about that. It's definitely a decent fighter plane. We were developing a fighter plane PAC FA or something with the Russians, but the Russians were being very obstinate and they were refusing to part with certain technological aspects of the fighter plane and all that, and they wanted to develop everything else themselves without and not involve us. So they were being very problematic, and eventually we cancelled that project, the co-development of that fighter plane, and lost a bunch of money in the process. So that's the experience we had with Russia. Now they have the Sukhoi 57, which is the kind of the output of the project. If it is good enough, we can buy it. We can be reasonably sure that the Russians won't put, what do you call it? Kill switches in the Sukhoi 57. We have had a lot of experience using Russian technology platforms, fighter planes. They have never done this ever to us. So we can be reasonably certain that if you buy the Sukhoi 57, at least that problem won't be there. Will it be a good enough fighter plane? That's something I think the Air Force experts have to look into. They have extremely stringent standards usually. So I think they can look into this. But if we do need to have, let's say, a bunch of fighter planes in the meanwhile, we can either, if the Sukhoi 57 is good enough, we can buy a bunch of those, maybe 100, let's say. Otherwise, if the French are willing to cooperate, we can set up a production line of the Rafale in India. Let's say we give them an order for 100 fighter planes with the condition that they transfer full technology to us, including the jet engine technology, and we set up a production line in India. So it's all about how you negotiate, what leverage you have, and what you're giving to give and take. So I think we do face this fighter plane crunch. Since I was a toddler, I've been hearing that we need 34 squadrons, but we have 18, 20, 21, whatever. That's been a perennial problem. The past 10 years of the Modi government, we've only had the 36 Rafales that came in. That's it. something has to be done about this. So, yeah, either buy it from the Russians or the French, with the caveat that we build it in India, we set up production lines in India, and we pay for the technology transfer. But the technology has to be fully transferred. It's not easy to get technology transfers, full technology transfers from anybody. But it can happen if you're willing to pay the price. So we'll see.